So what do we think here? Is the audio working okay? Still got a couple of minutes. I figured, hey, what the heck, we can just screw around. We haven't officially begun yet. Actually, maybe we need a little more light. Say that, see what happens. I can see myself, but I don't know if I can hear myself or not. Oh, thank you. I've got my Winter Gatan I Believe mug that arrived in the mail. It's not. It's just. Yeah, it's okay. It's just a regular old mug, kind of stuff stomped on it. It's not actually as nice as the Everyday Astronaut mug was. On the other hand, it wasn't quite as expensive as the Everyday Astronaut mug either. So, but the I believe bit, I can certainly relate to that when having challenging little bits. Do we think that we can actually make robust first happen and change the world? I believe. We'll see. All right, let me go back to the waiting room and let me check my stuff here. You know what? Software packaging sucks. I mean, it really sucks. And my question, I've been thinking about it a lot this week. Why does software packaging suck so bad? And that's what I want to talk about a little bit along with progress report. So, what I've been up to is the simple task of figuring out, Ulam 5, the latest version of the programming language that underlies my particular approach, the movable feast machine approach to robust first and indefinite scalability, hasn't gotten an update since 2018, and it's way overdue. So since the last update, that was what I took on, and boy. So I don't usually put up cartoons, but this is where we're going with this. There's how many different ways are there to package software? There's a ton, and every time you turn around, there's another one. And I can even understand the reason that one would want to do that. I mean, I've been in the same situation myself. We had our own packaging format a long, long time ago. So, how to release Ulam 5. So I'm going to go through several possibilities and just where I stand on them, whether I think we're going to go with it or not. So PPA, that stands for Personal Package Archive. That's a way, so Ubuntu, run by the company Canonical, funded by a really rich guy, has their repositories. And, the Linux miracle, to some degree, has been this idea of once you have software that's open source, that people don't have to go begging to some particular person who claims exclusive intellectual property rights to some software. That means you can collect it all together into a giant repository, and you can have a systematic access to it rather than, which we always used to mock, the Windows approach where you have to go here to get this piece of software and pay them some money. You have to go there and to get another piece of software and pay them some money and so forth. And it's a big mess, and you're running installer.exes all the time. In Linux, we have repos, and it works so much better. Well, that's great if your software is done enough to be, mature enough to be folded into the main open source tool chain. And I was never comfortable with saying MFM had reached that point. Now, maybe that's my problem. There's plenty of crappy software out there in open source land, too. So, I probably should have just released it and tried to get it into the official channels. But instead, I used a personal package archive. And in some ways, I now think this has sort of all the downsides of the repository and few of the upsides. Because number one, you have to, as a user, if you want to do this, you have to be running Ubuntu or something that can handle this particular style of software packaging. And you have to accept my crypto key that signs this, that says, yeah, it's from me, but who am I? I'm just some schmo. And you're essentially giving root access on your machine. You're essentially giving total access on your machine to everybody whose PPA archives you download from. And, I've done several of them over the years for particular pieces of software that I needed newer versions of and so forth. It's been fine as far as I know, but not the greatest way to do it. Well, and why has it been? So there it is, uploaded by, me, 2018, since December. That's the most recent upload. Why? Because there it is. Ulam, 149 weeks ago, failed to build, went through whole bunches of stuff. I've mentioned that on and off. So, PPA seems like it's kind of the old way. There's all sorts of new competitors, like the XKCD cartoon suggests. So how about Snap? Snap is a new thing put out by this group called Snapcraft, which is actually, it's part of Ubuntu, part of Canonical, that in effect is a lot like a PPA, but it's got a different kind of repository and so forth. And so, all right, I looked into it some, I tried to get going on it, and I got frustrated. This was a few weeks ago, so I don't even have a lot of notes on it. But, okay, so snaps over debs. Debs are the packages that the Ubuntu main repository uses for distributing software. Snaps are confined, meaning, there's more reason to trust them because they're sort of isolated inside their little snap. And that sounds like a good thing. But, of course, there's an incredible number of fine print asterisks on it. Like other snaps use interfaces which are inherently insecure, like X11, which means if your snap involves drawing anything on the screen, then the confinement is a joke. So again, seems like really a lot of the downsides with relatively few of the upsides. Flatpak is a competitor to Snap that is done by the Red Hat folks. I didn't even actually look into it because I moved on to App Image. And AppImage is something that I know because I've used them. In fact, the video editor that I put these updates together with, well, not when they're doing the live stream, but when I was, recording them ahead of time and then just uploading them once, it was Kdenlive that I used, and I used AppImages to get to it, and it's very nice. You download one file, you make it executable, and you run. And that has, and it runs on lots of different systems. It's really very nice. And so I say, hey, come on, let's do an app image. So I started down that road. This is a comparison between app image and Snap and Flatpak. The other way, Flatpak. Now, this comparison is done by the App Image folks. I mean, both Snap and Flatpak have significant corporate backing. App Image is more the rebel band that are in the more community open source spirit and so forth. So, this is a little bit biased, but, and as always with these things, the key is not whether you have the checks in the columns or not so much as what you decide to put on the rows. But, it's true. So the great thing about App Image is you don't have to install it. You just copy one file and do one little thing with it and you're going. Which also means if you want to get rid of it, you just delete that file and it's gone. Snaps and Flatpaks that do real installation scatter stuff all over the place and so on and on. Bunches of comparison issues. So a week ago today, last Tuesday, October 5th, I started down the road of saying, okay, let's make an app image. Now, should it be for MFM, the simulator, MFMS? Should it be for Ulam? I said, let's make a single app image for the Living Computation Foundation toolset. All of them put together. So you just download one thing and then we'll have some scheme to dish off from one to the other inside it. So that's what I started looking for. Okay, now it's Wednesday, a day later. I've been working on this, and man, it's pretty frustrating. A part of it, of course, is because of these open source rebel band. Number one, it's a relatively small total number. And number two, there's many, many more people using app images than there are making them. That's a sign of its success. But it also means the Google searches you do keep finding, all you have to do is set the executable bit, and when you're actually trying to find details about why my particular attempt to build an app image is screwing up one way or another, it's a lot thinner on the ground and a lot of it is outdated. All of the stuff that every programmer these days is familiar with. I got to the point of I was trying to use this Linux deploy thing. It seemed reasonable. It got very frustrating. I didn't really understand, so I was Googling around looking for alternatives, and there's this thing, App Image Builder, and it's like, does one of those related to another? Do you use App Image Builder with Linux Deploy? It was really unclear. Eventually, a little bit more Googling, I found this quote in the App Image Builder documentation that says, and unlike other app image creation tools, it can be used in modern systems, which seems pretty snide, but it turns out the other app image creation tools is a link to Linux Deploy. I see. They're competitors. So the App Image Builder approach, it says, let's just package everything. I mean, there's this fundamental decision when you're packaging software to run on a system that already has software, which is how much of the software that's already there do you use versus how much do you carry with you. And, that is an inherent fundamental problem. The more that you can forage off the land, the lighter you can travel. But the more you have to be adaptable, the more you have to say, whoops, there is no regular expression engine, there is no pearl, blah, 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 and what are you going to do? So it's a lot harder to live off the land, but you can move much faster if you can do it. And that battle back and forth between how much do you include versus how much do you trust will be there is at the essence of the software packaging problem, and it's fundamentally why they all suck. This has been a frustrating week. It has been a frustrating week. So I decided to try App Image Builder, and by Thursday, I was just about at wit's end. I couldn't get it to work. I could get this to work and not that to work. All these little bits. I get all these ambiguous clues from Google searches. But, so part of it is with the idea of packaging almost everything that you might need. Part of it is this whole idea of a dynamic library. Now, a long time ago, when I was a kid, when you would compile a program, you would end up with an executable file that essentially had everything you need. Kind of like an app image. These things keep recursing and reappearing in themselves. But then a big improvement over the time was this idea of a dynamic library, that instead of having all the libraries compiled in with you, you just request them when the program starts up. You say, ooh, I need the C library, I need the DNS library, I need whatever it is. And the system would have more responsibility for linking you together with the dynamic libraries that you ask for. Now, that not only saves space, it saves a lot of space, because now if you have 100 programs that are all using the C library, they can all use the same copy. It's very nice, very tricky. But now when you're trying to do an app image, it comes back and chews on your butt. So you have to figure out all the dynamic libraries that your program is expecting to use. And there's tools for it, LDD and so forth. I'm doing all of this, but, it's not easy. And then, as I get deeper into it, because the simulator, it uses other programs, it uses Perl programs to do crypto identification and so on. So just finding out the dynamic libraries that the simulator itself needs is not the end of the line. And you end up doing this. There's a program called strace that allows you to sort of get a little observing point all the way down at the very bottom, where this program talks to the Linux operating system directly, and you can get a hook in there and see what it's asking. And this is it. It's asking for, open a file for user share Perl like this, which meant there was a whole nother pile of things that had to be included in the app image for App Image Builder to make it as standalone as possible. So by Thursday now, I am Googling around looking for what other people have done, trying to find other folks that have used App Image Builder to do stuff, and seeing that they are explicitly messing around with the list of places to look, because the way App Image Builder works is it tries to say, I'm going to give you a fake entry point. If you thought you were going to look at a place called /user/bin in order to find a program like ls, well, no, you shouldn't. You're actually supposed to look at /temp/.barf/user/bin, and that's the way that the app image sort of isolates itself, so that when you try to run a program, instead of running the real one in the operating system that is hosting you, because the operating system is still there, and the app image file is kind of laid over it without being separated from it. And from the app image point of view, from the app image user point of view, that's mostly a feature, except for security. Jump cut to Sunday, 2 days ago now. Frustrating, but it looks like we had MFMS running on Fedora 30. That's a distribution of Linux made by Red Hat, Debian stable, CentOS, Ubuntu Xenial, and so forth. Could not get it working on Arch Linux at all, and lost a lot of time on it. And I mentioned this has been a frustrating week, okay, later on Sunday, I had managed to repeat the whole thing so that I could actually do it, get an app image that I could run the simulator on a bunch of different Linux. Make this same app image file, put it in a bunch of simulators that ran these different operating systems, and try it out. And I was able to get the simulator run. So that was pretty good. And I said, the heck with Fedora 33 and Arch Linux. If somebody wants to help me out with that, that would be super. And then I said, well, okay, we had MFMS the same. I was packaging up Ulam in the same way. Let's go for Splat, and so I did that, and it turned out that I built, my original test just ran MFMS, and it said, make an atom, halt after apps, so that dash run, so that you'd start the thing up and it would just run for a brief period of time, like a few seconds of wall clock time, and exit, and that's how I knew things were working. Well, when I put Splat in, I made the test more elaborate so that it actually initialized a little directory with a sample myelement.splat in it, and then tried to build it and run it. Oh no, I was not nearly as far down the road as I thought I was, because I hadn't tried the compiler. I had packed Ulam, but I hadn't tried running it, and it was a mess. And again, not Ulam's fault, just more packages, more stuff, and the compilations were actually just crashing, and I spent a lot more time on that. But now this is yesterday. Oh boy. So I'm letting app image go. I'm letting app image go, at least for now. Somebody's going to have to be a lot more skilled than I am with using it. But there are other alternatives. So there's Docker. And in fact, as I was sort of rooting around in the Ulam directory, I realized, oh yeah, 3 years ago, Joe Collard and AJ Zaff had worked on a Docker script to wrap up Ulam and MFMS together in a single thing, so that if you could run this Docker image, you could do it. So I said, hey, well, I could try to refresh that. So I did that, and it kind of actually got it working. And I actually got to the point where I could run compile a Splat program to do a fork bomb and run it and see it going in a Docker container, in a Docker image with a container on top. So I created an account on Docker Hub and got it to work. And in fact, there were still issues, but it was a lot less frustrating the attempt to do the app image. But again, Docker is not nearly as inviting. You have to have the Docker engine running on your machine. Now, there's versions for Mac OS, there's versions for Windows and Linux, but you actually have to have it there, unlike the app image, beautiful, download, execute, go, like that. So there's still trade-offs, but I was at the point where let's say anything is good so that we can declare victory and come talk to y'all. So that's where we're at. We're at Docker, and here it is. I am libcomp on Docker Hub, and we have LCFT, the Living Computation Foundation toolset, MFM, Ulam, Splat, all the accessory MFM, zrun, and so on and so forth. And it's there. And in addition, we've got a new repo on GitHub that is the Living Computation Foundation is owning it. That is LCFT, Living Computation Foundation Tools Docker, the thing that has got all the stuff in it that I used to build that image. And in addition, it's got so blah blah blah, and a lot of this stuff is just copied from what Joe and AJ had done in 2018. I tried to update some of it, but it's running out of time. So, do I dare? Do I dare try this? I will. So, just press the correct button. All right. So I'm gonna make a directory demo. I'm gonna go into it, and then I'm going to get the. I've got the URL here for lcft docker.git. And it's a small little thing, which is good. Let's see, Docker, and now I'm just going to try to run the init thing. Let's see what happens. All right, and it died. I think I know why that might be. I can't believe I'm doing a demo. All right, yeah, let's get rid of this thing because we want to actually. All right, let's try that again. All right, all right. Okay, there's Docker pulling down all the little bits and pieces and making an LCFT local that has been customized to connect to my home directory so that I can use my existing files and so on. And so I think we worked. So MFMS, look at that. Whoops. We're running. Okay, so let's see if I can do this in here. Maker test cd test splatter dash initialize. Oh man, I'm really pushing my luck. So now the splat translator took my little element, the out-of-the-box element, and translated it into Ulam, and now Ulam is running under the hood in the Docker container, and it takes a little bit of a while, but hopefully it won't take too long, and then we ought to be able to see my element actually running in MFMS. Okay, here we are. And if we bring up the tool palette, look at that, ME. That's my element, all right. And if we let it go, and sure, it's a fork bomb. It really seems to me, I used to feel bad about the fork bomb, but now I really feel like it's absolutely the logical starting place for distributed stuff. It is the hello world of indefinite scalability. The thing that just says, hey, you've got events there, you're a cellular automata that are willing to do things all over the place. Well, hey, I'm willing to go all over the place. Okay, that's the demo. We actually got it working, yay. And so we did it. Now, a few more little points and then I'll wrap up. Now, why does software packaging systems all suck so bad? Well, it's a little story that sort of what goes around comes around. This is me in 1994. I had just moved to New Mexico to become an assistant professor of computer science at the University of New Mexico. And I was hearing about this stuff, oh, okay. So there's this thing, Linux. It's this new Unix-like operating system. Cool, great. I've been using Unix for years. Linux, a new thing, and neat. But, what the heck is a Debian? What the Debian, like that people were talking about it. And I didn't know what the hell it was. And as far as I could tell from, looking around, it seemed like basically it was a bunch of marketing people that were just trying to steal the thunder from Linux. The hard part was making the actual operating system itself. And then, the way it would work is you'd get the operating system with just the bare minimum of stuff, and then you'd put your own software on it, or you'd get the one package you needed and you'd use it. So these guys, they're just sort of putting themselves between the user and everyone else and just saying, what are we doing? We're collecting a bunch of software together. That's all we're adding. We're not writing it. We didn't write the operating system. We didn't even write any of the software. We just write the collection. Debian, Ian Murdoch and Deborah Murdoch, the folks that started the thing. And the whole concept of a distribution, a distro, was absolutely foreign to me. And it seemed just like, it seemed like marketing. It seemed like people Johnny come lately trying to come and take the credit. And I now see, I was totally wrong. And, the more I have looked at spatial computing, the more I have looked at indefinite scalability, the key point is structure at all scales. So yes, the Linux operating system, incredibly important, incredibly challenging, and you put one or two programs with it, no problem. You put hundreds and thousands of programs with it, problem. And so you need organization at the next level up. And the distros are doing that. And now the software packaging systems, the app images, Snapchat, Snappack, Flatpak, they're trying to do another level of it as well. And That makes sense. The thing, as everything gets bigger and bigger, new levels of structure will emerge and will compete with each other, and perhaps one will win. USB-C, maybe it will win. But in the case of software, it's all built on this sort of completely structureless CPU and RAM model, and so that means it all collapses, and the isolation that you think you have between different apps, between snap confinement, that says it's confined so it's better, but no, it's not really confined. And, the app image goes the other direction. It really doesn't even try. It's infiltrated with the actual system underneath, and you just gotta trust. You just gotta trust. Why it all sucks? Well, it sucks because it's hard. Because, software, incredibly complicated. Computers incredibly powerful, but ditching space, giving up on having spatial computing and going with CPU and RAM makes it that much harder. And fundamentally, the way to get along is with good fences making good neighbors. This is all my acreage here. I got Bob Smith on the south of me and Sally Jones to the west, but this is my spot, and we know where one ends and the next begins. Can't do that in CPU RAM. It's all one big sack of soup inside. All right. It was a very frustrating week. So, the insider's report, and then I'll wrap up real quick. So I've been, my own thoughts, maybe this is going to succeed, maybe it's not going to succeed in my lifetime, maybe little bits, who knows, but how are we going to have some fun doing it? And I came up with one idea, and it's, let's build the damn grid. I built 150 plus tiles over a year ago now, and have put together, a handful of them, 20, 25, or 30 or so of these. But the other 120 plus are all sitting in pieces in the boxes because I wanted to get the software into better condition. Screw it. Let's just build the damn grid and look at it. See what it does. Try to run things on it and see where it goes wrong. So, I'm going to get a better camera because, as you've seen, as I've been struggling to try to figure out a way to record these grids, it's very low light, and a fixed focus camera is a pain in the butt. So I'm going to get a sort of half decent camera that at least claims to have good low light autofocus performance, a lot more pixels so that we've got a chance of getting a fairly big grid, and to make sure that it can be controlled from Linux so that I could do time-lapse stuff, script it, and so forth. Going to get a new T2 disk image. That's been several years on that as well. Get a bunch of copies ready so that we can start to build the thing. In the hardware side, there's a few little bits that are necessary. Number one, there's heat is a significant problem. It's one of the reasons that we want the grid to be vertical, because it helps heat rise and clear out rather than putting it all out on a table. I started using little aluminum heat sinks on the processor when I put these things together, and that was a last minute change once I learned about the heat issue being more than I had thought. Got to get more of those. I only got a smattering of them. I'm going to have to figure out how to source them in the modern supply chain disrupted era. Also some more power supplies, and then just sort of go through all the inventory and make sure we've got all we need. Some of the hanging stuff is busted and gotten used and so forth. I'm concerned particularly about the intertile connectors that are data only, the ones that are supposed to go in a ring around a group of tiles that has a single power supply. So, the timeline, my plan, the aspirational timeline, is we'll have one more update on October 28th to catch up on where the preparations are at. I am going to be gone for the month of November, and am I going to be writing fiction, putting stuff together? I don't know, but also the hope is to come back on December 6th with T2sday update 3111 and have half decent by the T2 Tile Project standards build video. That's the plan. I hope everybody is doing okay. I will be hanging around as always in the live stream until 1 o'clock, and hope to see you next time. So I'm cutting the local copy to upload the one that's got slightly better resolution. And it's like, what's wrong with this picture? It's like, I forgot to put my jacket on. Yeah, I get, maybe it's okay. Anyway, it seems like we're all alone here at the moment. The audience has left the theater, so it's funny. You kind of knock around on stage, nobody notices, but camera's still running. Anyway, so I'm actually about ready to start rendering, and of course, I am using Caden Live. I'm using an app image to do this. It would be nice. It would be nice if could figure out a way to. All right, are we actually ready to render here? I think maybe we are. We're gonna do WebM. Are we gonna do WebM? I had bad trouble with that last time, and then I went back and I had to re-render with MP4. So maybe I'm just gonna go back to MP4. Full project 3109 seems okay. All right. Now we're gonna start fighting for the CPU here, I think. But so be it. One of the all right, there we go. We're rendering 53 frames per second. If that holds up, that would be pretty nice. But now it's already dropping to 48 frames per second. Anyway, this is quite a bit of work. I mean, OBS is still running, we're still streaming, and now we're rendering with, I don't know, 4 processes, 8 processes or something. Wow. Yeah, the stream quality looks like it's really awful. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, we're still doing 48 frames a second. I mean, this would be great if we could, actually have this thing ready to upload by the top of the hour or so. Well, I mean, it's going to be close. And it's back up to 53. But so it's calling 15 minutes. So assuming the progress bar holds, we won't actually be ready to go at 1 o'clock. But could be pretty close. And then it comes down to the matter of how long YouTube wants to sniff over it, and before it comes up with a HD render of its own. I'm a little concerned because this thing, I mean, I thought I was recording locally at 4K. That was kind of the point of not just going with the YouTube stream version and trimming it down. I mean, it still looks like it's better than that, but I'm not. Well, this is the other thing. I mean, I can show you a secret. I mean, I don't know if it's possible to see it at all. I could try. Let's see if we can see this. Can we see that at all? Not sure. Maybe. That's the new Workstation. It just came in a couple of days ago. I just unpacked it this morning. Haven't plugged it in yet. I'm a lame-o. I just got a. You can kind of see it. It's a Dell tower. And, if I had any actual respect for my computer chops, I would have been putting one together with my own Merbo and so forth. But I got more money than time to some degree here on the one hand, and on the other hand, I still wanna, support Dell because it's coming with Ubuntu 20.04 installed. And I am old enough to still think that that is exciting, even though, hey, here we are. All right, now the render says it's at 13 minutes or so to go, which will be done shortly after that. Will be done, yeah, shortly after that. All right. See, now I feel like I'm obligated to, do a song and dance number here. Like that. And the whole point was, no, we're done. Yeah, if nobody's around, nobody's got any questions, then it's not on me to entertain anybody. But we did have a couple of folks that were here live that were chatting along, and chatted with them a little bit afterwards and so on. So that was fun. This whole idea that I've been tossing around in my head about, what's the difference between speaking and writing? What's the fundamental difference between speaking and writing? Is it, that using your hands versus using your mouth? Well, but everything gets recorded now and so on. And my new take, I don't know how new it is, it's a little new. The difference between speaking and writing is it's speaking if there are witnesses. It's speaking if there are people that, if there are machines that can parse the utterances you're making while you're making them in real time, so that at least in principle there's a possibility of a closed loop interaction while the speaking is going on. So if one stands, so by this argument, the T2sday, all the T2sday update, the first 103 of them, whatever it was, those are writing because there were no witnesses when I was actually doing the recording. But now the live stream are speaking, as long as somebody shows up to make the it's all about the witnesses. And I kind of like it, and it's like you can be there. It's like, in witnessing miracles. I'm not saying this is miraculous, but the point is, people talk about making witness, and back in the day before there was any kind of actual recording stuff, it was all about people giving their witness, saying what they saw that defined the shared reality or whatever it is, to the degree that there was consensus, Rashomon style, and I think that's really fundamental. And so, I don't know. That was just a point that I never had an excuse to mention. But since there's nobody here, since now this is writing. That's weird. Anyway, I guess I'll go back to the to the waiting room. You know, still got the mic on, but I'm gonna mute it and just go. Well, actually, I'm gonna turn the AC on. Is what I'm gonna do, and cool the place down. It's just not the perfect studio, but hey, step by step, it's working so far. Actually, I'm sort of curious how the lighting looked this time. I'm gonna have to go back and take a look at it. I was just working too quick to check that. Anyway, all right. Secret bonus for people slacking through the live stream after the fact.